London, Sadiq Khan, held a discussion with the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Dame Cressida Dick, and put her on notice following this week's damning report from the Independent Office for Police Conduct. The report found disgraceful misogyny, discrimination, bullying and sexual harassment within the Met Police.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that meeting between the Mayor and the Commissioner was probably a little bit more than just a discussion if it resulted in those reports that said that she was put on notice by the Mayor. The watchdog took the step of publishing those extremely offensive messages exchanged by a group of police officers in Westminster from their WhatsApp and Facebook group. They include multiple references to rape and violence against women in particular. And this morning, we're asking, what faith can women have in the police in the wake of those revelations? We asked some women out in Manchester what they thought.
Police officers making fun of rapes and all the stuff doesn't make me feel safe about the police force at all.
I'd feel much more confident approaching a female officer than a male one.
I think the police do a fantastic job. I think they do a great job of protecting, the people of Britain.
Well, we're joined now by former Chief Superintendent of the Met, Parm Sandhu, and women's rights campaigner Patsy Stevenson, who made front-page news when she was photographed being arrested by police officers last March at a vigil for Sarah Everard. Yeah. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for coming in this morning. I wonder, Parm, how you felt when you saw this report and you saw some of these messages that had been exchanged. I mean, messages that were, and I'm sure it's been pointed out, were so vile that they can't be used or talked about on live television.
I mean, the ones that we can mention, there's a WhatsApp conversation between two police officers in which one officer says to another about his own partner, "I'm going to smack her." Another officer says, "You ever slapped your missus? It makes them love you more. They're biologically programmed to like that." I mean, that's a tiny snippet of the many, many, many messages. As Ben says, what is your reaction to that? And what do you imagine the reaction from women who need to report to police would be?
When I first came across the report and I read through it, I wasn't surprised, not surprised at all.
That's
I'm
shocking
saddened.
in itself.
I'm really saddened, and especially as this comes after the deaths of Bieber Henry, Nicole Smallman, and the photographs that were shared of their dead bodies. And it also follows the Sarah Everard murder by a serving police officer. Yep. So I wasn't surprised at all. But what I am is, I'm really saddened that the communities of Great Britain are not getting the service that they deserve.
With regards to the question about people who find themselves in a situation where they want to report a crime similar to the ones that they will have seen these police officers discussing with such revulsion and abject disregard, why would they feel like they can go to the police and report a sexual assault? Why would they feel like they can go and report an assault when any sort of racist incident, when they see that the police are exchanging messages like that?
When you actually read the messages, they are really offensive and they are absolutely unacceptable. But I would say, hand on my heart, I did 30 years in policing. I'm really proud that I was a police officer. And I'm proud that I'm going to Hendon tomorrow for a passing out parade because my mentee is passing out. And I am never, ever going to say that the whole of the police service is corrupt or incompetent, because they're not. The majority of police officers are good, caring individuals who are there for the right reasons. And I absolutely believe that. Now, if there's a person, whether they're male or female, and they're out there and they're in trouble or in crisis and they need police, they need to have that confidence in picking up that phone and making that call.
The trouble is, I mean, we spoke to the Independent Office for Police Conduct yesterday, and it was pointed out this isn't just a few bad apples. And of course, no one is casting aspersions across all police officers within the Met or indeed in any other police force. But the point is, if you need to go to the police to report domestic violence, you will be worried that the police officer you report to might be one of those ones. I mean, only a few, by the way, 2 lost their jobs as a result of this investigation. There were others involved in these text conversations. You would be concerned that you might be reporting to a police officer who has either joked about domestic violence or admitted carrying it out.
I totally accept what you're saying, but it's not just about domestic violence. Some of those comments are racist,
Oh, no,
homophobic.
sorry, Palm, I absolutely agree. I'm making the point about an individual example. If today a woman needs to report domestic violence, and you're absolutely right, if it's somebody who needs to report a racist assault, if it's somebody who needs to report a homophobic attack, the point stands. Would you be reporting it to a police officer who you say you're not surprised might have exchanged these messages?
I agree with your concerns, because the majority of that team are now still working, but in different departments across the Met. And I don't understand why a whole lot of them weren't sacked. And when we talk about groups or pockets of people or bad uns or bad apples, no, it's not just one bad apple, it's not just one bad un. There's too many of these individuals, and they're being spread right across the Met, and they are infecting other people. And those attitudes and behaviours are not acceptable. But I still say that the majority would not behave in that way, and I would still say, pick up that phone.
Patsy, we get contacted by lots of police officers after stories like this who are devastated by seeing what has been going on and the headlines that things like this rightly make, because it's horrific to see. But as Palm's pointing out, the police force is huge across this country, and the majority of them do an incredible job and can be trusted. Your experience of what happened, and when we met you post the Sarah Everard vigil, when you got arrested and you went through, up till that point, what was your expectation of the police? Did you feel like you could trust the police? And did that change after that experience?
Of course. I mean, it would have. So before that incident, I had trust in the police. You know, some of my friends are in the police force. I never took a second guess about it. But, of course, I'm a white woman as well, and from a certain background, and, you know, I've never been in trouble with the police, and I've never been racially profiled, or, you know, I come across as straight passing, so I've never had a homophobic incident with police, things like that. But women have been telling us for years and years that this has been going on. Marginalised groups are always facing these issues from police. And after the vigil, it just became more apparent. I've spoken to ex-police officers, I've spoken to activists, I've spoken to everyone who's told me the same story. And it's not just from one side. I try and have an open view of it all. Yeah. But the answer is still that it's a lot of them.
Yeah. The person who's in charge, the commissioner, a woman, Cressida Dick, but she has come under so much criticism, particularly, obviously, in the wake of the murder of Sarah Everard by a serving police officer, and the way that that vigil was handled, the way that people were literally handled at that vigil. And now we have this under her watch. We understand that she's been told by the mayor that she's on notice. Do you think she should resign?
I mean, you know, it's a token gesture type thing at this point. Even if they fire her, you're still not, you know, even if she resigns, you're still not tackling the actual institutional systemic issues within the force. And that's the thing, is like, I feel like if she resigns or she's fired or something happens, everyone will be like, oh, it's done now. And it's not. It is some radical change needs to happen, because women are not safe with these police officers.
I also want to ask you, Patsy, since this is the first time I've spoken to you after all of the details of what happened, allegedly, in Downing Street during lockdown. You were arrested because of COVID regulations, protesting about the fact that a woman had been murdered and that women did not feel safe on the streets. I mean, the irony, of course, is that Sarah Everard was stopped by a police officer who pretended there were COVID regulations in place, which meant that he had a reason to stop her. And it's awful. The details, as we all know, are horrific. But when you now know that the people making the rules may not have been sticking to them, but you were on the front pages being arrested for not sticking to them, what was your reaction to that?
Well, it's just hypocritical, isn't it? They're the ones that created the rules in the first place. The rules were so ambiguous and broad to start with, but the fact that they've blatantly broken the rules, and if they did get a fine, it would be no skin off their back, but working class people have been fined copious amounts. You know, I know a lot of people that were fined £200 and told if they don't pay them, they'll be prosecuted. They had to. and that left them without food for the month. If Boris Johnson was fined, what's going to happen to him? Nothing.
Palm, what do you think about Cressida Dick's position on notice, the warning from the mayor? There are so many things adding up now, which she's been in charge when they've happened. Can she really legitimately stay in position and have the faith of police officers? Does she have the support of Metropolitan police officers?
I've actually had this conversation with her to her face and told her that she took the Met backwards and that she took the Met back to the Macpherson days and the recommendations, and that she should be ashamed of what she's done for the Met Police in particular. So I've had that conversation. But what I would say is that the Home Secretary and the Mayor of London gave her an extension on her job. So now we need to hold her to account and say, what have you actually done since last year? What have you done as a result of not just what's happened yesterday over the last year? What have you actually achieved? Yeah. I want to know, I want to hold her to account rather than say, walk out the door.
All right, Palm, Sandy, thank you very much indeed. Patsy Stevenson, thank you.
The Metropolitan Police have said that the conduct of a team of officers at Charing Cross Police Station does not represent the values of the Metropolitan Police Service. We are deeply sorry to Londoners and everyone they have failed with their appalling conduct, and acknowledge how this will damage the trust and confidence of many in the Met. Since this reprehensible behaviour was uncovered in 2017, we have taken a series of measures to hold those responsible to account and stamp out unacceptable behaviour.